Hello again, and welcome to another exciting episode of Social Studies. This is 4.2. What is a constitution? I'm going to try to keep this one quick. What is a constitution? This is the sheet that you are looking at. So pause and make sure you have this sheet. It is on the back of the one that says after independence. Okay, so what is a constitution? And I'm going to try to stick to this and go in order and get the notes filled in without too much dillying or dallying. Dallying? Yeah, so that we can talk about it in school, but you'll have these notes filled in. So, what is a constitution? First of all, you could say it is the government's rule book. It's the government rule book. It it creates the framework. Oh, I already went off script, I guess. Okay, but that's okay. I'm going to follow along here so you know it creates the framework, blueprint, or guidelines for the government. Basically tells the government what it can do. It's the rules or laws that a government must follow. Now we're back on track. The rules or laws that the government must follow. It tells the government what it can and cannot do. Okay, so right now we've just filled in all of this number one here. So if you didn't get that, you can go back and get that. 2, why do we need a constitution? Well, let's back up for 1 second. Why do we need a government? As you recall, we need a government to protect people's rights. And you know that because in the Declaration of Independence, it said that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you went further, you would know that it says the next line is that to secure, that means to protect or keep safe these rights, governments are created among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. So people give their power to governments to protect their rights. That's why we have governments. You might remember if not, we will ask me about it. We'll talk about the cantaloupe and the antelope and why we have governments. It's a great example of the hunter-gatherer and the cantaloupe and the antelope. I'm not going to tell it now. Okay, why do we need a constitution then? We know we have a government. Why we need a government is to protect people's rights. Why do we need a constitution? Now we're back on the note sheet. Number 2, why do we need a constitution? To protect us from the government, to protect people from the government, so that the government does not take away rights. So it does not take away rights. Because if you think about this, if a government didn't have any rules it had to follow and a government could just do whatever it wanted, if a government or somebody in the government was above the law and could just do whatever he or she wanted willy-nilly and didn't have to follow the rules of normal society and there were no consequences for actions, that could create a bad situation. The founding fathers might call that person a demagogue or a tyrant. Tyranny, somebody who takes away people's rights. All right, and also it's not in the notes here, but you might mind me. So that we know how government is supposed to operate. What is a government supposed to do? What are the jobs of the government? How does the government do its job? Those things are in the Constitution. Now back to the note sheet. If you're looking back at your note sheet, we are up to number 3. And I'm just giving away answers here. This is a picture of number 3. The question is, what was the first Constitution of the United States? The first Constitution, this is a picture of it right here, was called the Articles of Confederation, or Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union between the States. Articles of Confederation. It was created here in Independence Hall. After declaring independence, they next went to work on creating this new national government. And the way they created a new national government was by creating a new constitution called the Articles of Confederation. We will talk a little bit about the Articles of Confederation shortly. I'm going to skip this for now. Here's a little momentary quiz for you. You can hit pause here if you need to think about it. What was the first Constitution of the United States? Dun, 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 dun. Ding. There's the answer. D. Hopefully you got that one right. The Articles of Confederation was the first Constitution of the United States. Now, you can probably get through life with just knowing a tiny bit about the Articles of Confederation. One fact you should know about it is that it is our first Constitution. That will get you through most of the questions you will ever get about the Articles of Confederation. The other question that you might be asked, though, which is equally important, is what was wrong with the Articles of Confederation? What was wrong with this Constitution? Well, here's the answer. The national government was too weak. The national government was too weak. The national government was too weak. Everyone say it. The national government was too weak. Which government? The national government. What was wrong with it? It was too weak. The national government was too weak. Now remember that there are other governments besides the national government. There are state governments. Each of the states had their own government. We also have local governments like the city of Canandaigua or the town of Canandaigua or the town of Farmington, etc., etc., etc. One note here for you to keep in mind is that the word national means the same thing as federal. So the national government or the federal government, same thing. Okay, so that answers up to, I was on number 4. What was wrong with our first Constitution? Why the national government was too weak. Now, the next question is why, oh, I did that twice. Why was and this is back in the notes, why was the national government designed to be so weak? So you're writing in national government and so weak. Good question. Why would these smart people create a government that was so weak? Well, as you recall, people at that time, the word state basically meant country, and people were mostly loyal to their states, not to the United States. So you are filling in here, people were loyal to their own states and not more than they were to the United States. Kind of like the European Union today, as we talked about, where people in Spain, France, etc., are more loyal to their own countries or states than they are to the whole European Union. Okay, and the second part of this answer, and states, that's the first blank of the second part after the word and, states did not want to give the national government very much power. Why would they not want to give it power? Okay, we're going off the grid here because this part is not I don't have a slide for this. You're going to have to just listen. So we're on after the word and in number 4. And states did not want to give the national government very much power because they were afraid it would take away power. It would take away power from the state govs. And you can abbreviate governments, govs, G-O-V, G-O-V or G-O-V-T-S, governments or people's rights. They were afraid a strong national government would take away too much power from the state governments and or people's rights. A word to know here, it will come up later, is the word sovereignty. Very hard word to spell, but that next blank right above the number 5 one is sovereignty. Sovereignty, it has the word reign in there, like the reign of a monarch. Sovereignty means control, the power to govern, the authority to make decisions, etc. So the question is, who has sovereignty? Do states have sovereignty, or does the national government or federal government? We'll talk about that later. But just for now, start learning the word sovereignty. It's a fun word to say and try to use it every day. Number 5. Number 5, right here. That's where we're on the notes now. We should have the first half filled in. My time's ticking away. Hopefully I haven't been too long. I forgot to set my timer. I'm sorry, but I'm going to talk fast. What evidence do we have that our first Constitution was not working? Again, I'm going to not discuss it a lot. I'm going to discuss it more in school, but give you the straight answers now to fill it in, kind of. So each state had its own money or currency. States were producing their own money. Many states had their own armies. We'll read about this and find out. So states are competing. Remember, these states think of themselves as countries. They have their own money. They have their own armies. States were taxing each other and having trouble getting along with each other. Many states claimed the same lands in the West. You can see all this land out here that's being claimed. Oh, that's the wrong picture. This is the one I'm looking at. Many of these states were claiming the same lands in the West. Like here, Massachusetts, Virginia, and New York all claim this land here. And actually, Connecticut did as well. Connecticut's right here as well. So it was a mess. Who was going to own these lands? The states were fighting amongst themselves. Not yet wars or militarily fighting, but disagreeing with things. All right. Here we go. The many states claimed lands in the West. Also, the economy was very weak. We're back here. Also, the economy was very weak, and other nations did not respect the American states. Example, this is England kept forts out here. After the war, they were supposed to go home, but instead they kept some forts out here in these Western lands. Just waiting for the colonies to fail, or the United States to fail, so they could sweep back in and get their own colonies back. Also, Spain, the Mississippi River here. Remember, this is the Mississippi River over here, owned by Spain. Spain owns all of this. Spain decides they're not going to let us use this Mississippi River, which basically makes all of these new Western lands kind of pointless because there's no roads, and if you can't travel by river, you're in trouble. And finally, there's going to be something called Shays Rebellion. Shays is an awkward word to spell because his name was Daniel Shays, and it was his. So Shays is a rebellion. Okay, do I have time for this? Real quick version of this. Out here, it takes place. This is Massachusetts, as you know. And Massachusetts, as you know, is part of New England colonies originally. Out here in Western Massachusetts, there were some farmers. And I know what you're thinking. Farmers in New England, how are they ever going to make a profit with their short growing season and rocky soil? They're probably not. But and that's going to be a problem because they're not making a lot of money. They're having a hard time just struggling to get by, and they're being taxed heavily by the state of Massachusetts because Massachusetts is in debt from this war, the Revolutionary War. They have debt. Their economy is bad, so they're taxing farmers. These farmers start to lose their land, so they form militias and take over courthouses. And we have a history of farmers getting angry and grabbing pitchforks and muskets and being mad about taxes and forming militias and overthrowing governments and stuff. So this Shays Rebellion, Daniel Shays is the guy leading it. It almost becomes a civil war, almost becomes a revolution. I don't know exactly what this is showing. This is a picture of Shays Rebellion. They take over a courthouse here. Now, the thing is, the state of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, puts out a call, not a literal call, although this makes it look like a literal call. They write to the national government. Remember, at this time, under the Articles of Confederation, it is the Congress, the Continental Congress, and they say, hey, we need help up here in Massachusetts. We have a rebellion on our hands. You can see Daniel Shays here, rebellion, unfair taxes. Okay, and what does the government say? What does Congress say? Sorry, nothing I can do. Because under the Articles of Confederation, there's no army, there's no president, there's no money. It's just a very weak national government. So to fill in the notes, the last thing here, you can use these to fill it in. Shays Rebellion, farmers in Massachusetts, led by Daniel Shays, that's the guy's name, rebelled. The Massachusetts did end the rebellion. Massachusetts was able to stop it on its own, but the national government, national gov, could not do anything to help because it was too weak. Had no army, no money, no nothing. This convinced people that the Articles of Confederation were not working, or convinced people that we needed a stronger national government. What did we do about this problem? Well, you're going to have to tune in next time to learn about the Constitutional Convention and fill in that last bottom part of the notes, unless you're smart enough to realize that these are the words right here that you would use to fill in that last part about number 6. What did the United States decide to do about this problem? They held a constitutional convention, which is a meeting in Philadelphia to revise, which means fix, the Articles of Confederation, but instead they're going to decide to write a whole new constitution. And where will they do that? Right back here at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. All right. Sorry I went long. I'm going to shut it off right now. Have a great day and a great break if I don't see you. Stop, 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 stop.